Hey, Lena.
I'm so happy to be talking to you.
I am more happy to be talking to you. And why? Because you talked about doing this. And one thing about you is when you talk about doing it, I turn around and you do it. That is one thing about you. We were sitting in your living room or something. You was like, yeah, I'm gonna interview some people. I want to get to know some things. And that I was like, uh-huh. Next thing I know, bam, here we are.
We are.
But you took a long time getting me here.
Oh, well,
a whole season. I know you had to get those icons in.
You're an icon as well. Look, see, and there we go.
There we go. Okay.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah, icon-ish. On my way to iconness.
I would say your body of work is one that is very impressive. And it was very exciting to be going back through the archives, the memories, the characters. And where I like to start these episodes is sort of at a beginning for me, when I first saw someone, or sometimes a person's most like famous project that kind of helps break them into the zeitgeist. For me, the first time I saw you,
first of all,
was on
what word did you use?
The zeitgeist. What did I say?
Zeitgeist. I'm gonna need a dictionary or Alexa or Siri or something. What's a zeitgeist?
I think the world, the culture, for people to know that you're on the scene.
I like that.
The first time I saw you was on a show called The Sinbad Show. And it was a very particular episode where Nancy Wilson was also guest starring.
That's when I met Nancy.
There's a young Ray J in the episode.
Oh, yeah.
And church is really the center of the episode, and really believe in God, if God exists or not. And you play one of Sinbad's love interests.
Yeah.
So we talked on this show a lot with previous guests about multicam and that kind of acting. I'm curious, how did you take to multicam, and what was it like on the set of the Sinbad show?
Well, that was definitely, we're going to say, early in my career. So I'm nervous now, but I was really nervous then. You try to act like you know everything. And multicam is a different kind of energy than, say, single cam or movies. So for me, it was always a fine line of coming off of, say, Beauty Shop and these plays where you had to be so big you could hit the back of the wall. So I always was fearful in, I guess, with the multicam being too big. Always felt like I heard, Kym, can you bring it down? Kym, just, and so I always tried to find what was that fine line between being funny, being big, and not getting fired. I've never, oh my goodness, you got me telling the truth already. Let's see. I've never been good in a love scene. I was never been comfortable with it. So even I've always been a sexual character on TV. They always pin me to be the sex kid. And I'm like, nummy. But it was always difficult, even like with Sinbad, to I would flirt and do all that. But baby, if they were like, okay, you and Sinbad got a kiss, I'd have peed in my pants right there on the set. I was like, I would just.
How did you deal with that, just to keep it in this area? How did you push through that uncomfortability while still being able to perform?
Wow. Like you said, you're an actress, you had to act. And if you look at my scenes, I go through with, like you said, comedy. I can push through if I can be funny.
You don't want to be a burden, but you aren't.
Don't look at me with your eyes. I don't like those eyes, Lena. Don't look at me like that. Baby, that's it.
Why wouldn't you want to hear the truth?
Because sometimes the truth is, it hurts. Sometimes the truth is just hard. If someone said, you know what, Kym, back in the day, you way too loud. That would have been like, that would have crushed me. But the truth was, I was loud. I was wild, and I didn't know it. I didn't understand it till my friends started saying, you a little loud. You need, you a little wild. You at the party on the table dancing. What? What's that? In front of who? Yes, Kym, you had your butt in front of Steven Spielberg. What? Did I have it? So that's the kind of thing sometimes you're like, I was having fun. But the truth is somebody needs to say, hey, this is how you can do this. Or maybe you should do that. You've had those conversations with me before. We don't even got to go there, but you've been like, what you waiting on, Kym? You have. Why aren't you doing your special? All of this in this business for me, a lot of it has been fear. And that is I go and do it anyway. I do it in spite of, even though it's frightening, right. I do it in spite of. Oh,
got you right.
That's friendship. That's love. So I think, I think that's it. I don't really like coming on your show like this. I don't really like you stripping me down. I don't even appreciate this. There might be some dudes out there trying to holler and they be like, oh, look at it, little crying self. Might be some actors I need to inspire. Oh, Lord Jesus. Okay, I'm ready. I'm back in.
Let's talk about the Wayans brothers.
Oh, yes, that's joy.
You did an episode called Misery.
Yes.
Where you play Marlon's obsessed fan named Phyllis.
Yes.
Apparently she had a roommate, Cynthia, that didn't exist.
Yeah.
And she it's the first time I've seen catfishing. You sent a picture of you're supposed to be you, but it's a picture of Vanessa Williams to lure him into your apartment. He gets there, you tie him up and do your best Kathy Bates. What was it like working with
But I wanted this role so bad. There's only a few roles that I wanted so bad. They wouldn't let me do this role.
Who was they?
Leah Daniels was like, Kym, this once again, friendship. I
amazing casting director, Leah Daniels.
Amazing. That's my girl. And we're very good friends and her husband. And I said, can I go out for this role? I heard about it. And she was like, no, Kym, you're too pretty. I said, please, I got to have it. I said, I could do this. And that's
nipples are too deep.
All that. Oh, I got in trouble for that on the set too. So I begged and begged. I'm telling you, Leah got sick of me. She got sick of me calling, texting. I think back then it was a fax machine. I was sending fax. She said, okay, come on in. You're going to be the last person. I said, fine. I spent all day. See, life is different now. I got all kinds of, kids, everything. But when you first start, you have nothing but time to figure it out. I went to like the toy store or whatever, and I got these fake teeth.
The prosthetic teeth.
The prosthetic teeth. I said, oh, I'm getting this role. I got me some of that little stuff you put in it. Let me tell you something. All night, I slept on it. I woke up that morning, and my hair was all over my head. I left it. That little bit of mascara had run down here. I left it.
Come on.
I grabbed this little old frocky dress that looked a hot mess and some old flat-looking funky shoes. And I went to the audition, breath stanking, everything. Yes, I was into that character. And I sat in the waiting room, and I had my teeth in my hand, and I had my little paper and was ready and signed it, and I sat there. And I remember looking at all the girls. I was like, they not ugly. But, they were, she had to. I was like, get this role. I said, I'd never forget. She was like, Kym, come on in. Ooh. Yeah. Leah was sick of me. She was sick of me. And we were in the audition, and all the producers, I can't even remember the producers, but all the producers were sitting there, my boys, but I knew them, and they knew me. They was like, hey, Kym. They all looked at me. I said, hi, the little dimples, the smile. And I'll never forget it. I turned around. I said, I'm ready. I turned around, my back to the camera, and I stuck them teeth up in my mouth. One was gold, and the rest was crooked. Baby, they said that first line, and I turned around. They fell out. They was on the ground. Leah was through with me. And I remember doing that audition, and that's when you got it. And the producers did like this. Can you come like this on Monday? He said, I want everything you have. Bring it in. And Leah was like, all right, Kym. I was like, yeah. And I remember, because when you want something and you feel like I can really do this, and you show them instead of telling them and begging. But I'm going to show you. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to show you. That was one. And on the set, that damn Marlon. See, every show I've done with the Wayans, they're going to ad lib on you. You got to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
So we were having so much fun. I think Garrett was the director. And we were having so much fun. And he started cracking on me. You know, Marlon was like, I'm going to take you to the dentist. That's not in the script. And I was like this, and I'm going to bite you. Just cut. He said, okay, listen, y'all. So we just kept doing it, having fun. And then he said, Kym, this is great. It's all fine. He said, but every time your dimples show, I didn't think about that. He was like, you got to find a way not to laugh or even smile. So I had to do the scenes, and I was like, when I tell you, we had so much fun. And that's why it is definitely one of my favorite things that I've done. And me and Marlon, we are friends to this day. And
I love Marlon.
I love him. I love his whole family. They're really a creative and nice family.
What made you want that role so bad? What made you go for it that way?
I could see myself doing it. I went for it because I saw me in that role. Once I read it on the page, I was like, oh my God. And I saw the potential of the craziness and the fun. And it seemed easy. There was no difficulty in that role. There was no challenge. It was nothing. I was like, this right here is a walk in the park.
What did you want Phyllis to be?
Oh, I wanted her to be a crazy, foolish, in love, just crazy, just as crazy as she could be. And in her mind, that was her love. That was her boyfriend. And she had a closet with all the pictures.
The cutout?
The cutouts. And I wanted Phyllis to be, but I also wanted them to see her humility. I wanted them to see that she just wants to be loved. And she crazy. She needs some medicine. And she needs to go to jail. But something happened to her and she just wanted love. That's it. And she chose him to love her, and his brother and his daddy and all them, they just ruined it.
It's very interesting talking about this character because you said you feel uncomfortable playing the love interest. And you said Phyllis was easy, or she came easy to you.
First of all, your questions are too deep. But I would say that first of all, there was no sexual tension there. You know, there was nothing. First, he was going to run from me. Anytime I got close to him, I knew that he would run. So there was no fear of I had to kiss him or anything like that. And for me, I grew up with all boys. So the crazy of the physical and the boy stuff and this woman, she wants to be feminine. And when you say to me, like I've always struggled with the feminine side of me, like, you know, just the girly, everybody's like, you got so much testosterone. But I grew up with all boys. But my mother was very feminine, very demure, very, you know, but I was in a world of boys. And my mother was like, Kym, can you just put on the dress? I don't want to put on the dress. I'm going to play football. So doing this character, there was that I could be rough, you know, but I want love. So the struggle of both, if we want to get deep into that would have been for her, that I want to break through this. I want to be loved. I want to be feminine. I want to cook you dinner. I want to take care of you. But I also want to chop your leg off. You know, I want to strangle you. So I think that was the fun of it, you know.
Does some of that come from you being tall? Because I feel like sometimes when you're a woman that's slightly taller, I'm tallish, you're tall. Some people say we're tall for women. Does that make it hard to embrace your feminine side or your sensual side? Because women people that you do, they tend to want you to be short, petite, small.
Interesting.
And so I'm curious if that maybe has something to do with why you feel
I-
not as comfortable in that feminine side.
Well, I think, because of all the boys, growing up with the boys, and I had my mom, but in sports, and I always wanted to impress my dad. So all the boys are playing football, they're doing everything. My dad's going to all their games. I'm playing volleyball. I was like, Daddy, you gonna come over? I'm playing volleyball. And especially when you get tall and you have big breasts and strong. But also, I think it is also a protection mechanism. Also, growing up, the tallest in the class, the strongest. I protected all the smaller girls. I know this sounds crazy, but I was more of the, hey, get off, what you doing, So that in dating, hey, because I knew that I had played football and I got brothers and I would fight you down to the ground underneath the bed. So I think I played with dolls. I did all that stuff, but my mother could never get me in the kitchen. I was competitive. So when I look at that, even you're right, the masculine side, even in high school, they had a pie eating contest lined up. Who you think won? Football player, me. Killed it. Okay. So that thing, and that might be the thing that is the struggle when a scene comes around, that I have not been exposed to. Now, if you talk to my friends, they're like, oh, honey, if Kym gets the right one, she turns into a girl. And it's true. When I feel taken care of and I have a very, I don't want to say a personality, but a man who's really, I feel safe with, I don't have to be the one running it. I go,
So you need an alpha.
there it is, an alpha. But a compassionate alpha who is in touch with its feminine side. Right, exactly. I can't have no whole alpha because I'm in there like, come on. No, none of that. But secure, and that I can just go, you feel like I'm safe. So I think that's when I look at the characters or when these scenes come around, why is that a struggle to tap into that side? Because I've tapped into the other side for so long.
I mean,
this is also a therapy session. And I wanted, I don't remember why, but I read it and I was like, I gotta have this sugar. This is me.
wow.
I gotta have it again. I wanna be like you, because for so long people thought I was
We sound alike.
we sound alike in the AT&T thing or something.
It's because we got deep voices. That's what it is.
That's what it is. But you and I watch you, I listen to you, and I was like, what made them pick? Because that made it seem, because I know you. You didn't put any effort. You didn't go like, oh, I gotta hit this word and you were you. And that's it.
I think your voice is one that is nice to listen to. And I think your humor comes through your voice.
See, honey, let me tell you something. God works things out. I was working on something else, and they're like, we want you to go in. And I go in this room, and there go Larry David. I was like, oh, there go the cute little white man. He's sitting in the chair. And I see Cheryl Hines and the rest of them producers sitting around. And that's what was good and a blessing, because I didn't know who was in the room, and I didn't care. And they called me and they said, you raised the bar so high that we couldn't, every time we saw somebody, we couldn't unsee you.
Talked about a couple of things. You talked earlier about not wanting to be a burden and not wanting to call people and ask for help. What had happened within you so that way at that point, when you got that part, you weren't afraid to call Cat Williams and ask him for advice on how to play Monina?
Because this is going to sound crazy, but at that time, the Cat Williams, the Buddy Lewis, I'm not saying low-hanging fruit, but they're right there. I can get to them. Cat's my friend, I can call Cat, or I'll see him on the set or wherever we were doing. Buddy, I always call Buddy Lewis. Dave Keckner's my neighbor. there was no burden because they were in my somewhat circle. So calling them was just like, hey, you want to go to the comedy club? What you think? That's why. When I have to go out of that immediate circle, even with like Jennifer Lewis, even though we've been friends for years, I'm like, oh, I don't want to bother her. The burden. Oh, Lena's right, and she's probably working on something. That's the thing, because I'm not as everyday connected. Knowing what somebody's doing don't feel like a burden. So I felt like Kat is right there, Buddy's right there, Dave across the street.
What had happened to you up to that point where you had less fear walking into that room than you would have earlier on in your career?
Good question. I had been on the stage and started a room called at the Ha Ha Cafe, Whacked Out Wednesdays. This was a Mexican restaurant, and now it's a full-fledged comedy, just comedy club. And I started that club with Buddy Lewis. So it's two people on stage every night. Every celebrity, every comic had been through there. So my improv skills were sharp. I had gone out for Mad TV. That's a whole nother story for another day. But I had gone through the whole thing. When they said this was an improv show, let me have it. I want that. Because learning someone else's lines is more difficult for me, because I have to study, I have to know where the writer is coming from. I have to memorize the lines. All of that. You're going to give me a scene and just let me say what I want to say? Please. Let me have that. And I think I ran to that for that freedom.
Are you at an actual game for the filming of the episode?
We had 400 extras, and they just filled in our area. And I know we were at a real Dodgers game because we're filming, and someone says, hey, Kym. I was like this. And I couldn't explain why I'm with this little white man with this little outfit on. Remember, I went back to do ADR. That's when, of course, if you want to, we have to, do our voices again. And Larry was like, Kym, we got to get this in. There's a guy who's up for murder. I said, come on.
That's right.
Yes, we saved the guy's life because he was at the real Dodgers game with his daughter. They didn't believe him until that show came out. And thank God to that PA who let him, you know how they stop you when you're filming? They're like, no, you can't go, they're filming. And he was like, okay, go ahead. Just because he said that, they caught him in the shot going down to sit down. And he won his case. He didn't murder his girlfriend. But that thing was just iconic.
Just so good.
It was fun.